Hey, it's Edie. I came across a quote several months ago and I shared it on Facebook, and you might have seen it as well. It said something along the lines of, one of the reasons people are so miserable is because we are constantly comparing our behind the scenes with everyone else's highlight reel. And I'm bringing this up for a couple of reasons. One, because I'm working with a videographer this week on some marketing videos that we're going to be doing. And we're brainstorming about ideas of what type of footage we're going to be taking, lifestyle footage to represent people being able to generate the kind of life that they want, and how I've been able to generate and create a life I absolutely love. And as I'm getting ready to do this and create this video, I'm realizing obviously that we're going to be creating, kind of a highlight reel of what my life looks like. And yes, for the most part, I have a great life and I've worked really hard to create it that way. But just because most of the time things go well for me doesn't mean that I can't relate to the hardships that other people have. And certainly doesn't mean that I'm somehow exempt from crappy things happening in my life or from crappy feelings coming up for me now and again. It does happen to me, and it happens all the time. And I want to share this today because I don't want you to hate on people who seemingly have the perfect life, because it's not true. Everybody has a behind the scenes. I have a sister who lives in Hawaii, and she and I were talking about this very thing last week. And it's funny because obviously she lives in paradise. She and her family are on the big island of Hawaii, surrounded by sunshine, surrounded by palm trees. And so a lot of the events and pictures that she posts on Facebook and shares out there is of them at the beach in the sun, having an awesome time. Everybody's got smiles on their faces. And, from that perspective, you're looking at her thinking she has the absolute perfect life. But it's amazing to me when I hear her tell somebody where she lives. They ask her where she lives and she says it. And so many times they respond with something like, "Oh, we hate you. That's so unfair that you live in paradise." And in some way, I'm sure that they're meaning that as some sort of a compliment, right? But also, I've heard several people say to her, "Oh, I don't even want to go on Facebook anymore because all I see is pictures of you and your family and your perfect life." And there's two things wrong with that. First of all, it's not real. Just because she lives in paradise doesn't mean she has a perfect life. I have the privilege of talking to her once a week. She's my sister. We're super close. But, like everybody else, she has days where it's hard for her to get out of bed. And she made the comment to me when we were talking about this, just because I've been married for 16 years doesn't mean I don't understand what it feels like to feel completely alone, completely isolated, even though I'm surrounded by family and friends who love me. And when she shared that with me, it really struck a chord because I understand that feeling. I have a really great relationship. I've been married for 15 years. I have awesome kids. I have incredible friends. Yet even in the midst of all of that greatness, there are moments, there are occasions that I still experience where I feel like nobody understands me and I do feel completely alone. And I have things that come up that challenge my happiness, that make me have to be intentional with where I'm putting my thoughts and what I'm going to focus on so that I can get back into that place of feeling good. You've heard people talk about not judging somebody else unless you've walked a mile in their shoes. And normally that phrase is associated with not judging somebody else who you think is living a certain bad life, looking down on somebody and judging their behavior and judging their lifestyle. And that phrase comes in to mean you don't know what their story is. You don't know what their behind the scenes is. So for you to judge that person's life and who you think they are is unfair, because it's coming from a place where you don't know what their daily struggles are or what their daily struggles have been or what they've been through in order for them to be in the position that they're in. And I also want you to apply that to judging people who you think have a perfect life, who you think never run into any problems, because it's just not true. Nobody does. Every single one of us has a behind the scenes, and you don't know what that is. So while it's true that I am going to continue to show my insecurities, to share my insecurities, to share my struggles that I have with you guys, so that you can understand that I'm not perfect, that my life is not perfect, and so that you don't create some sort of barrier of being able to relate with me, I'll continue to do that, and I want to continue to do that. I want to continue to let you know that I'm human, that I mess up, that I scream at my kids and feel bad 5 minutes later, that I'm laying in bed next to my husband, sometimes feeling completely alone and misunderstood, just like so many other people. I'm going to continue to share those kinds of things, and I'm willing to be vulnerable in order to make a connection, so that you can feel inspired that it has nothing to do with me being wired differently, and that life isn't, things just aren't handed to me, and life just ends up being perfect for me. However, what I'm not going to do is apologize for my happiness or feel bad about the life that I have created. I'm not going to apologize for that or feel bad about that in order for anybody else to feel more comfortable in their misery. I know what it's like to spend the majority of my life feeling out of control, feeling sad, miserable, and depressed, and I won't go back there. And so I'm not going to be made to feel bad because I've been able to create and set up a life that, for the most part, I love. And so I'm asking you today to be aware of when you are putting somebody else down for them being able to achieve a level of success, a level of happiness that you want. It can be tempting to stay in the Isn't It Awful club. It can be tempting because there's a sense of belonging when you're there. When everybody else is complaining about how miserable their life is, when everybody else is complaining about how much they can't stand their partner, or how much their kids drive them nuts, or how much they hate their job, there's a sense of belonging in that when you're able to share the same frustrations and the same stories. But you have to get honest with yourself and ask yourself, is that what you want? Would you rather belong? Would you rather be accepted? Or would you rather be happy? And I chose happiness. And I want to stress that. I chose happiness. It was a deliberate intention that I made, that I was going to do whatever it took to be happy. And the reason why I want to emphasize that is because you can do the same thing. Happiness is a choice. Yes, bad things happen to us. Crappy things show up in our life. But you always have the choice every single day of what you're going to do with those circumstances that just show up in your life. You have the choice to be happy. You can ask yourself every single day, every single moment, what can I do to create happiness today? What can I do to do something that's going to help me feel better? What can I think? What can I focus on that's going to bring me joy, that's going to bring me happiness? And once you start to do that, once you start to live your life that way, you're not going to have any room to attack somebody else for their happiness or to judge them for their happiness. When you quit judging other people for their life circumstances, good or bad, you're opening up room for you to focus on yourself, for you to work on yourself, work on your own life, working on how you're going to create a life of joy and happiness, and how can you strategically do that. And you free up your space from getting rid of all that judgment on everybody else to be able to do that work. And I hope that you will take this as a challenge to start doing that today. Hope you have an awesome week, and I look forward to talking to you next time.